Oh my goodness, what day? It is Sunday. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you are having an amazing weekend so far. We have lots to do today. We are going to make stuffed mushrooms. Now, I know there are a lot of people, including my husband actually, who do not like mushrooms. And that's okay because we got you covered there too. So, the very first thing that you need, obviously, are mushrooms. Now you want to look for big mushrooms. Now I am using white mushrooms today. You don't have to use white mushrooms. Now I've had these for a day or two, so you can see that they're not beautiful and white. They have some spots on them that say that I've had them in my fridge and they need to be used up right away. Now I'm pulling the stems out of these so that we have some place to put our stuffing. And we're just going to set our stems aside. And we are going to use those later. Now, these are lovely mushrooms for stuffing. If you want something that is going to be closer to a full meal, buy portobello mushrooms. Portobello mushrooms are awesome for grilling, for frying, for doing in the oven, under the broiler, whatever it is you want to do. But these for today are going to be wonderful because my husband is going to be home tonight. But even though Dell's going to be home tonight, good morning, Mom. Even though my husband is going to be home tonight, I know he doesn't like mushrooms, so I only need to do a few for me. So there you go. But if you don't like mushrooms, stay tuned because we've got something to figure that out for you. So we're going to set these aside now that we have the stems pulled out of them. We're just going to set them aside for a little bit and we are going to start working on the stuffing. Now let's get this out of our way. We will deal with that later. Now in a bowl, you are going to put, what are we going to put in here first? You know what, we're going to put in 40 grams of Parmesan petals. Now, you want Parmesan petals or fresh grated Parmesan this time, and we're going to break them up a little bit. Now, you remember when we did the dish on Friday, I used like a powdered Parmesan. It was still fresh, but it doesn't melt the same way for some reason. I think they must dry it a little bit more. And so it doesn't quite melt the same way. And we're going to add mozzarella with this, so we want to make sure that these cheeses are going to melt together beautifully because that's going to give us a lot of our flavor. Okay, so we've got these broken up pretty much. Now, have you got a cup of coffee with you this morning? Because I got to tell you, I have a cup of coffee right in front of me. I have coconut in here this morning. Yes, Mother, I washed my hands before I started. Okay, now we have the Parmesan cheese broken up. And where is my cloth that I just had here? You know, they seem to, oh, there it is, right there. There we go. Okay, so we have 40 grams of Parmesan cheese in there, and we're going to add 100 grams of full fat. Now, I want you to look for mozzarella cheese with the highest fat content you can find. It will probably say pizza mozzarella or something like that, melting, I don't know what else it would say, but I want you to look for that because you do not want to be using low fat or no fat anything when you're doing keto. You want low carb or no carb, but you don't want low fat. Okay, so let's get a spoon and we're going to mix these two together. And then I am going to stick them in the microwave. Oh, before I put them in the microwave though, I am going to add 20 grams of the ground pork rinds. Now, remember we looked at these, we used them on Friday, Wednesday? When did we use ground pork rinds? But we're using them again today. We're using this as a binder, and this is a better binder. Oh yeah, trying to clap. Okay, well, Either way, I washed my hands. This is a better binder for this than almond flour or coconut flour or xanthan gum, because when you use pork rinds, it's going to have a little bit of fat, it's going to have some protein, not going to have any carbs. So that's a bonus. So we like ground pork rinds for that reason. Now, having this in the bowl, I'm going to throw it in the microwave and heat it up just a wee bit, not much. So we're going to put it in for about 30 seconds. Oh, and what is going on here? Okay. Now we'll put that in there for 30 seconds, and that's about all that's going to need. While we're waiting for that, we're going to chop up 6 stalks of asparagus. Now, if you have never used asparagus, if you buy it in the store, it should be cut fairly close. But if you bend it, where it breaks off, that's what I have always been told is the best part of the asparagus. So you can see that it leaves me a piece that's about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. And you can feel it when you're bending it. You can kind of feel this one is going to break off up here. Now this is going to be the most tender part of the asparagus. And that's what we want, because we don't want, oh, that one's going to be nice and long for us. Yeah, easy peasy, just like that. I am so excited about the asparagus that's going to be coming up in my garden. And it isn't going to be very long. Now, we are going to chop this up really fine, because we want this mixed well into our stuffing for our mushroom caps. Okay, now you probably heard my microwave went off. Now you'll feel, if you pay attention to your knife, when you are cutting asparagus, as you get to the top of the asparagus, you'll feel that there's a lot less resistance. It's a lot more tender. So that just really gives you a good idea of why we're snapping it off at the most tender part. Now, in my house, I have an amazing little dog who absolutely loves asparagus. And so these ends are not going to go in the compost, but they are going to be set aside for little doggy treats for him, because it'll make him very happy. Okay, now we have this chopped up, and I'm going to give it a little bit of an extra chop here. Just get this chopped up really well. I want this to mix in with the cheese so everything is all ooey and gooey and wonderful and delicious. Okay, there we go. Now we have these 6 lovely little stalks that are going to make, now for those of you who know me, you know this, but for those of you who don't, my little dog's name is Piglet. So this is going to make for one very happy little piglet. Okay, now you can see that our cheese has kind of started to melt, but it isn't totally melted. And so in here we're going to add the 6 stalks of asparagus. Whoops, whoops, whoops. And we're going to put in about 2 tablespoons of homemade bacon bits. Why are we not using bacon bits from the store? Anybody, tell me, why are we not using bacon bits from the store? Because bacon bits that you buy in the store are made with sugar-cured bacon. Now, I am absolutely aware that that doesn't mean that there are lots of carbs in them, but there are still carbs in them. And, you know, it is well worth remembering that whether it is bacon or any other ingredient, manufacturers get to lie to us about the carb content. So when they say that there are 0 grams, that could be 0.99999. So 1 gram. But they get to round it down. Doesn't matter what the number is, they get to round it down. So if you are using any kind of a processed food, I want you to round up. So if it says 0, you count it as 1 carb. If it says 1, you count it as 2. If it says 2, you count it as 3. Now, when you're talking about bacon, sugar-cured bacon, usually a portion size is 2 pieces. Now, I don't know about you, but a portion for me is not 2 pieces. It's 4 pieces or 6 pieces or 7 pieces. Usually 5 or 6. So if we say 6 pieces is how many you're going to eat, now, if you're counting one portion as 1 gram of carbs, well, now it's 3 grams of carbs. And that's a pretty huge chunk of your carb budget for the day. And if you're trying to keep each meal at 10 grams of carbs or less, that's a lot. Are you willing to sacrifice that much? And I gotta tell you, making bacon bits is so easy. Now, we talked about Maple Leaf Naturals bacon that is not sugar cured. Good morning, Del. And it is absolutely delicious. And there are a couple other kinds on the market. Look at Kirkland brand bacon. They do have one that is not sugar cured. And Mitchell's Gourmet Bacon, I believe, is not sugar cured. So, okay, onwards and upwards. Now, for those of you who do not like mushrooms, I want you to plug your ears and sing a song and do whatever it is you want to do, because the next thing I'm going to add to this stuffing is more mushrooms, and I'm doing it because I love mushrooms. So, if you don't, just leave this out. Pardon me. Now, we're going to chop these up. I want these chopped up quite fine because we want them to mix in really well. Now, these little white mushrooms have a really mild flavor. It's an earthy flavor, but it's very mild. Portobello has a much more pronounced flavor than these do. And if you want a mushroom that is really mild, oh my goodness, I was going to tell you and now I can't remember the name of the mushrooms. Okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to call that my grandma brain and leave it at that. Okay. You can chop these up as fine or not as you like. Now, because I know that I'm going to be using some of this stuffing for something for my husband, I'm going to set some of this aside right now without any mushroom in it. Now you can see that cheese in 30 seconds in the microwave started getting very melty very quick, and that's a good thing. That's what we want. Okay, so we're just going to set this aside and we'll save this for a little bit later. Okay, itchy eye. Okay, now that we've got his out of the way so that he will love it, we're going to add these mushrooms. And to that, we are going to add 30 milliliters of whipping cream. Now, the whipping cream is going to do 2 things. It's going to give us a little bit more fat. It's also going to make this nice and creamy. So it kind of helps take the place a little bit, I guess, of cream cheese that would likely have more carbs in it. And then we are going to mix this up really well. Now I am going to grab a glove to keep from getting my hands all messy. I don't mind touching stuff like this, but I did have gloves out because I know that next I'm going to be touching meat, because we're going to have to be doing something for those people that don't like mushrooms. I don't know about you guys that don't like mushrooms, but good morning, Sherry and Evelyn. Yeah, bacon is a staple. You know, in our house it used to be that we did not sit down and eat a meal without bread. That was just a rule. It's more likely to be eggs or bacon now. Okay, now we have our stuffing ready to go. And so we're going to bring these mushroom caps back. And for those of you that weren't here when I said it earlier, if you don't like mushrooms, don't worry about it. We got you covered. Now, we are going to put some of this. Now, you want to stuff it down here, and don't be cheap with it. Pile it up. Now, you're going to have to get your hands a little bit dirty because you want this all piled up on top. Let's do it over the bowl so we can pack things in here really well. Now, you can do this in the oven. Set your oven at about 400 degrees. And I don't want you to worry about the mushrooms being cooked right through. If you like them cooked right through, that's great. But mushrooms are wonderful raw. And the closer your vegetables are to raw, the more nutrients are in them. Especially, you don't ever want to boil vegetables. Boiling vegetables just boils the nutrients right out. So steam them, that's fine, but don't boil them. When they sit in water and boil, it just boils whatever nutrients are left in them. Now, if you're buying organic vegetables, you maybe have a few more nutrients in than if you're buying regular vegetables out of the store. They're grown with chemicals and rather than good soil. Now, I had an awesome sign that I was going to have on my fridge today, and it is sitting on the printer. I did not get it out here, so you're going to have to wait for Wednesday for that one. Okay, now we have these about as stuffed as they're going to be, and I'm going to do these in the air fryer today. So I said 400 degrees in the oven. I'm going to do 400 degrees in the air fryer. And we will get those in the air fryer and then, okay, now you'll see I have a little bit left in that bowl, and I'll have a little bit on this plate that doesn't want to stay in there. Now we're going to take these 6 mushroom caps and we're going to put them in the air fryer, and I'm going to put them on at 400 degrees. I guess technically it's only 390 degrees, but close enough. 200 degrees Celsius. So if you're operating in Celsius, that's where you want to be. And we're going to put these in here for 10 minutes. Okay, now, while we're doing that, I'm going to put this leftover back in here. Okay, and we will get this out of our way. Now, for the rest of this, you remember I saved the mushroom stems from a little bit ago? So I'm going to bring those mushroom stems back. Now, I am not going to put this in the bowl for Dell's supper, but I am going to put it in the one for mine, because you don't want to mess, or you don't want to waste mushrooms, in my opinion. Okay, so we're going to chop these stems up. We're going to throw these in here, and we are going to use these. This stuffing is wonderful for whatever. You can stuff pork chops with it, and we are going to stuff bone-in, skin-on chicken breast. And why am I making a point of saying bone-in and skin-on? It's because we're going to put these in the oven at 375, and we're going to roast them, and with the skin on, you're getting that nice fat from the skin, but with the bone in, a lot of the flavor from meat is in the bone. So buying boneless, skinless chicken breast, you are cheating yourself. I promise you, you are cheating yourself. So when you can, you want bone-in, skin-on poultry. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about chicken or turkey or duck. And having said that, I just bought a turkey roast yesterday that is boneless, but it does have the skin on. So that's a good thing. Okay. There we go. Now, there is not lots and lots of cheese in there, so I am going to cut off a little more cheese here. Now, I'm just going to cube this because I know that this is going to be in the oven for quite a while because it takes a while for chicken breast to cook. So I could grate it, and it would probably be a little bit better if I grated it, but I don't have my grater handy, so rather than walking away from you again, I'm just going to do it this way. And we're just going to throw this in here, and we're going to do a little bit more asparagus. Now, do you remember? I know you remember what we do to make sure that we're getting it in the right spot. There's 1, 2, where is it going to snap on that one? And this one, oh, that one's going way up there. Okay, so now I think I'm going to put a little bit more cream in here as well. Kind of making a second batch of stuffing, but that's okay. Now this one I could have done, you know, this is another one of those recipes where you can do this to your taste. Now this one I want to be a little bit more spicy. So just for fun, I'm going to add half a teaspoon of chili flakes. Now I like mine quite spicy. For Dell's, I'm going to make it about 1/8 of a teaspoon. So it's going to give it just a wee little bit of zing, but not a lot. And you know something that I just realized? We did not put salt and pepper in the ones that are in the microwave. So it's a good thing that Parmesan has lots of salt in it. Now our pepper, you know, I have had this pepper can for years. I keep refilling it. Okay, so a little bit of pepper in there, a little bit of pepper in there, and we'll put the rest of that right there. Okay, so now we have this. Again, now I'm not going to worry about putting this in the microwave and melting this because I know how long it's going to be in the oven. Chicken takes a lot longer to cook than little mushroom caps do. So we're going to put another 40 grams of Parmesan petals, give or take. Yeah, I was not thinking I should have doubled this recipe. And just about 30 milliliters of cream. And there we go. 20 grams of pork rinds. So this again is going to get mixed up. And what are we putting it in? Now, Dell, you're not allowed to guess because I know you already know the answer to this. But here we go. We are going to put this in these beautiful bone-in, skin-on chicken breasts, which I've already told you about. Now, when you are, pardon me, when you're using meat like this, make sure you dry it first if you're putting any kind of a coating on the outside. Now, we're not going to put a coating on the outside today, but I still don't like touching raw meat, especially when it's wet and slimy. So, yeah, I know that maybe is a weird thing, but it is my thing, so I just own it. And that's as easy as that is. Now, because I'm going to be working with raw meat, guess what I'm reaching for now? I know you guys already know the answer to this. Okay, now I had 2 of these out here. What do they do with my other one? Huh. Well, so much for me being all organized. I will get out another one. There we go. Okay, now, look at how beautiful these are. And this is easily going to feed a large man. So this will be 2 meals for me. Now, usually, if you see a chicken breast stuffed, they cut it along the side. We're not going to do that today. We are going to cut it along the top. Now, why are we cutting it along the top? We are cutting it along the top because when we stuff it and then put it in the oven, now once we get in here, we can cut it so that it kind of butterflies open so we can get more stuffing in here. But when we set it in the pan to roast, we'll be able to close it up and it's not going to leak out the sides. So when you've got cheese that's going to get all melty and ooey and gooey, you want to make sure that you're not losing that in the bottom of the pan, although you can always scrape it out of the pan too. That's not a big deal. Okay, so we have these open. Now I am going to be nice to my husband and make sure that I have wiped off any last little remnants of mushrooms that might be on my hands. And we're going to remember the bowl that we set aside a little bit earlier. Now I've added some chili flakes to this. You can add some cayenne pepper to this if you like. Whatever it is that you want to put in here. More bacon, less bacon, no bacon. Change out the asparagus for kale. I'm not sure why you do that. Asparagus is absolutely one of my favorites in the summertime. So June is asparagus season. Now I am going to stuff this full. And we've got our salt and pepper in there. And when we have it as full as it's going to get, we're going to close this up. Now, I will take a picture of these and post it later, but we definitely do not have time to cook a whole chicken breast. And besides that, I would kind of like this done for supper. Ooh, did you hear that ding? I think our mushroom caps are done. Now for the other one with the mushrooms in it, we're just going to do exactly the same thing. And we're going to stuff this chicken breast. And then these are going to go in the oven covered at 375. And for the last 10 minutes that they're in there, you can uncover them. Get this skin nice and brown. Now you can, if you like, goodness me. I don't know why when I start talking I end up getting a frog in my throat. So you can, if you like, just brown this chicken, the skin on this chicken before it goes in the oven. So that's what we have done, ready for supper. I will cover that a little bit later. But let's take a look and see what our mushroom caps look like, because they are ready to go. Now, 10 minutes, 400 degrees in the air fryer. Look at those. These are absolutely beautiful. Pardon me. Oh my goodness. Now let's take these out of here. Now you can see the mushrooms kind of shrivel up. Now if you baste these with olive oil, they will stay a little bit shinier, but I didn't want any more fat in these. I'm just going to set these to a side. Now look at those. These are absolutely beautiful. I am very impressed with these, but as beautiful as they are, what do they taste like? Because that is always the big question. So let's find out. Now, were they in there long enough to get everything? Oh, look at how ooey and gooey and melty that is, and the steam is pouring off it. These are perfect. If you don't have an air fryer, don't worry about it. You can do these in your oven. Put them in for 10 minutes at 400 degrees. If they're not quite where you want them, put them in a little bit longer. So it depends on your elevation and on your oven. Now let's check it out. That is perfect. That's awesome. We did it. Together, we did it. You can do this too. It didn't take long. Write down the recipe, watch the video again, and send this to anybody else that might like to do this. This is a wonderful way to have a keto-friendly meal. Mushrooms are low carb. Asparagus is low carb. Asparagus has lots of chlorophyll in it because it's green, so that's a good thing. It has lots of other nutrients in it because it's green. Do this. Have it for supper. Have it for lunch. You can cool these and take them with you. They're very portable. So stick them in a container if you're taking something for lunch. They're good to go. Pardon me. Oh my goodness. Okay. You know what? It is 10:30 and I have kept you for a good chunk of your Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me again. Whether you're here with me live or watching the replay on my Facebook page, please hang out. We're here every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain. We're always doing something different. So I will see all of you, I hope, on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Until then, do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. That's what I'm going to do. We'll see you on Wednesday.